again, give us some reason why your point of view is right. You think we're wrong, so obviously you think that you have a point of view that is more accurate in terms of understanding the world and the universe than ours is. Fine. Please defend that. Present your evidence for what it is that you believe, and let us evaluate it.
I think the notion of a cause existing outside of a knowable, observable universe is cognitively useful.
It might be cognitively useful.
It's cognitively useful, but is it true?
Is it accurate? I mean, the notion of I have a pet unicorn who gives me rides every day might be cognitively useful, but what does it demonstrate about reality?
And see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what you have just done.
What, is pointed out how stupid your argument is?
No, see, it's not a stupid argument, because it's...
So what if something is cognitively useful?
About epistemology, my ability to know. You're just trying to stick a unicorn in my mouth that made me look silly, but, you know, I can't...
That would look pretty silly.
That would look... Here. Your ability to know something has nothing to do with whether or not a certain concept is cognitively useful. It has to do with, can you demonstrate that it's real and has application?
Okay, demonstrate that 4 is real.
1, 2, 3, 4. I can, you know...
No, how is it real? In what capacity is it real? What is the nature of its existence?
4 is a word that describes a concept. Basically.
So you're saying then that God is just an abstract representation of something?
Now we're right back where I started, and you just griped at me saying that this had nothing to do with anything, and we're now very in the midst of the argument I was just presenting. Because this is the same consistent viewpoint that's presented on this show, and it is a materialist viewpoint. You're going to tell me that numbers are only important, are only in any way imaginable as conceptual tools. They have no use or existence outside of our conception. They are derived and bound within the mind.
Well, whose conception should be useful to us? You know, aliens from an alternate dimension? I mean, we can know our conceptions of things do help us understand certain things, but mostly when we're looking at truth claims, and this is what religion hits us with, right? Religious people call us up, and they make claims that in their mind are truth claims. They claim to know that there is some sort of divine being, that he does X, that he wants X from us in terms of worship and belief. Right. And we respond to that by asking for the evidence, and if we don't get it in such a way that we think it's a satisfying answer, compelling evidence, we'll tell them, well, we don't really see any reason to believe you. So why is that wrong for us to take that attitude, that approach?
That approach, because that's not the approach you're taking. What you are taking is necessarily dependent upon the statement you just made. Okay?
Should I make points of view that are, should I embrace views that aren't dependent upon statements that I make and ideas that I actually have?
You're making, it's a sophistic claim to say, oh, I'm from this neutral position, I don't believe this, you have to give me evidence.
We don't say we're from a neutral position. You are trying to tell us we say stuff that we don't say. Listen, let me cut to the end of your argument. Does God exist?
I think so.
Okay. Do you have a reason for that, or do you just like believing in it because it's a useful concept?
No, I think the distinction I would have to make is it's from C.S. Lewis, and he said he believes in God like he believes in the rising sun.
Well, I can see the rising sun, dude, so I think that you're arguing for a different God, because if it was anything like the rising sun, you wouldn't have to go off on all these tangents about the number 4 and stuff.
Yeah.
No,
if you want to defend God as a concept that's in your mind, or if you want to defend God as something that's just the way the universe works, then that's fine. You can believe that stuff. What?
Do you know what figurative language is?
Yeah, is God figurative language?
No. But
then why ask that then?
If it's a thing that exists...
And you misinterpret it as literal. That's ridiculous. You won't even let me finish what I was saying, and you say, oh, the rising sun, I can see it. That's
a comparison that you made.
The comparison to the rising sun.
That's how we interpret the world, is by making figuration, synthesis. I mean, it's not idiotic. The quote, it's actually the means by which I was going to tell you why I think God might be necessary. And that is because C.S. Lewis, he thought of God like the rising sun. Not only that he saw it rise, but by it he saw everything else.
So in other words, he interpreted the rising sun to be God.
Hold on. The notion of causality, which is what I presented as my belief, as my definition of God, is not necessarily central to the existence of the universe, but it may be central to my understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I require God to talk to you about it, because I make the presumption when I talk to anyone that what I'm saying is intelligible. And I think intelligibility may require causality.
Well, so you might want to re-examine that assumption in the
ignore
future.
Causality may be irrational.
So essentially, God is simply your word for causality.
Well, it's a very specific cause, yes.
Okay. Well, it seems to me like you've just come up with another word for causality.
Well,
and I mean, if that's cognitively useful, fine. But yeah.
You agree there's something outside of our universe that caused it? We're in agreement?
I don't see any reason to think that there is anything outside of our universe.
Well, I mean, unless we're talking about a metaverse of some sort.
But that's all speculative. Again, we have no more hard evidence for a megaverse than we have for heaven. So, so in terms of right now, beyond
a megaverse is equivalent to theism.
But my point of view is that beyond talking about it in speculative terms as an idea that might be interesting, like alternate dimensions or faster than light travel, it's really not useful for any sort of.
What if it has a mathematical basis? That's the problem we're running into. Is that you have an impoverished view of reality that is based on your interpretation of material. It has no other balance through which to view it. That's the problem. That's my criticism. And you say, no, that's not valid, but then you continue to demonstrate it over and over again. Well, and I don't mean to be mean, but you're not aware of it. These are not issues I'm bringing up. These are issues that are current modern-day issues in philosophy, in physics, in every realm of human inquiry. And you can't dismiss them with some slipshod, well, that's silly, I'm from a neutral position. You have to convince me.
There you go, straw manning again, man.
Okay,
I mean, you're just
actually, we can dismiss them as silly, especially when you keep saying things over and over again that we've already disagreed with.
Yeah, and you keep straw manning us. Look, if you can use mathematics to prove a physical location outside the universe, and then find some way that we can actually get hard evidence of that, fine. When it comes to philosophy, well, as far as I'm concerned, philosophers can do what they do until the cows come home, but. Well, I don't see any reason why.
Not to mention the fact that the dirty little secret of philosophy is that the great majority of them, like a lot of scientists, are atheists.
But yeah, I mean, why you at no point explained why it was wrong to prefer evidence before latching yourself to a knowledge claim. I mean, okay, abstract concepts, mathematical concepts, it's fine. It's speculative. Maybe it shouldn't necessarily always be dismissed, but you should always be aware that when you're talking about that sort of thing, you should say, all right, we're not reaching definite conclusions here. This is speculative, and it's maybe worthy of further study. That's fine. But to say, oh, well, I use all kinds of complicated mathematics, and therefore I have some higher understanding of reality than you. Yeah, well, if you can't, and then you can't explain it coherently, it's not our fault. So.
Okay.
All right. I mean, that got a little tiresome.
We started out by him saying that we wouldn't accept his definition of a god, and then went on to not define any god and ramble about.
Well, I mean, he kept anyway. Complaining and protesting that we were wrong and
let's not
shallow
talk about
and
him too much while he's gone, though.
Well, but email us and again explain why we're wrong here. I mean,
work your thoughts more thoroughly out on paper.